So this one is about former Governor Andrew Cuomo returning to politics, or let's call it electoral politics, because a lot of folks are still in politics, even though they might not be currently in office or running. Let's call it his return to electoral politics. My jacket off. My pizza for later. Okay, so let's talk about it. Jacket on. I had something that was a suit affair together. Okay, I think I might as well do this video with it. So one of the things that's weird is, he took a long enough time away that his hope is that folks have kind of forgot, or folks kind of feel better about his run and his time. I mean, there was a time when Andrew Cuomo was first handling the beginning of the C-19, and yeah, he was handling the beginning of C-19, and then basically things were going well. He was like popular. Folks were finding out about him all over the country, because no one knows who the governor of New York is. Most people barely know their own governor of their own state. But once the kind of spotlight was here in New York because of C-19, he was in the spotlight. He was supposed to have some of the most relevant, up-to-date information. And, of course, he left his post in disgrace. I told people about this. It was funny because, it's not funny, but before that, months before this happened, I dropped a song called I Got the Governor Mad, specifically dissing Andrew Cuomo and letting folks know my issues with him and the problem that he was going to be for the state. I outlined that in the song, and then lo and behold, he had to step down later, so you gotta watch out when this Paperboy song drops. But paper, yeah, okay. So this is an interesting thread, and I wanted to read and talk through some of it. Yeah, let me get the mic closer here too. So for everybody learning of the disgraced Governor Andrew Cuomo's narcissistic return to politics with a run for mayor, this is good for you. Okay, first thing, and this is one of the first things that people talk about Granny, Andrew Cuomo transferred elderly incarcerated people at a high risk of deletion from COVID to a prison nursing home instead of releasing them. And the quote says, it's like they just sent us to fade away and die. There's some folks who are the tougher on crime folks who are happy to see this happen. They're like, oh, these people were incarcerated. It doesn't matter. C-19 wasn't real anyway, blah, blah, blah. So some of those folks, which is, I think, a small vocal minority, are okay with seeing elderly incarcerated people pass away. And, sometimes we bring up the charges and stuff like that. Folks are sometimes more sympathetic to that. Now, what I think, though, is that a lot of people see the humanity in people, especially elderly people, especially folks that have no control of where they are, essentially, because they're in the care of the state. And this is just not a good move. This is one of those authoritarian moves. It shows you where he stands on the side of humanity as well. And to me, that is not a good thing for a mayor of New York City that needs to have a good balance and understanding of, the growth of the city, but at the same time have humanity. And for someone like me, I'm focused on love. So that's an issue there. Okay. In 2019, Cuomo hired 500 more cops to exact violence and mayhem in the subways. Here's one example as NYPD cops push a man out of the subway for asking them to wear masks at the beginning of COVID. So this one is, this is not the governor doing this is the cops. But the point is that the governor put these cops there. He put more cops there. So added more people to the subways, and then there was no mandate for them to wear masks. So you see someone saying, hey, dude, can you wear a mask? I'm not going to play the video right now for time's sake, but you can watch it on your own. A person's asking, hey, can you put on masks? Can you guys wear masks? And they're getting pushed out of the subway and told not to do that. And this is a common thing. This is like, in New York, this type of thing is a common thing. You can tell cops to do something that's just like common sense, and a lot don't ever want to be wrong. It's hard for them to be like, you know what, my mistake, you're right, I should mask up. Sometimes some will. Sometimes you'll catch them, but that is the exception, not the rule. Most of them just, they have to be right. You have to play to their ego, they have to be right. And you see this going on, the guy taking care of the work, the woman officer can't push this guy, even though he's small. But the guy basically does, the guy cop does it and pushes him in. And, you know, this just shows, the problem with this is, it shows that Cuomo is going to have the same type of heavy-handed reasoning and only having a hammer to solve every problem. So, unfortunately, the NYPD is one of our main first responders, but as a governor with access to billions of dollars in funds, there are ways that you can put other first responders, especially in a situation of I forget what it's called, but emergency, right? Like, you're allowed to do, having more privileges in an emergency, and instead he just put out more cops instead of folks that actually can speak to the complexities of what, you know, goes on, and this is something that you need from Mayor of New York City. Okay. He got shouted with praise for agreeing to release a small, specially chosen handful of pregnant women that were incarcerated during C-19. Weeks later, many were still caged. The delay caused two women eligible for release to give birth in custody. So these were women that were eligible to be released and potentially up for release. Excuse me. And they had to give birth inside prison. Now again, I understand where some people say, hey, you know, people are in prison, they made these types of decisions, blah, blah, blah. I get it, you know, that prisons exist for a reason. I understand folks that are saying that. Not that I agree, but I understand. The separate side is that Cuomo actually agreed that people should be released. He agreed that pregnant women should be released. So even if you're like, oh, they're in prison, da, 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 the governor agreed that they should be released. But he did it in a way to get praise and to, you know, kind of get his name out there, and so he could seem more humanitarian while actually not doing what he said. A very small amount were, and, you know, there were multiple who gave birth in custody. And the other thing I would say about this is, again, we were in an extreme situation. And this is how he acted. When it was a time for, we actually need a governor to govern, and you have resources, you have basically all the money in the world, literally, to deal with this, and you do a poor job. And many people flat out are no longer on earth with us because of you being in office. And potentially so many more people would be alive if you never were even in office. So that is that. I'm just going through these threads. This isn't even my reasoning. I'm just going through these threads. Out of 2,500 pending and worthy clemency applications submitted by incarcerated New Yorkers, Cuomo granted only 10. That's a 0.4% grant rate. Just despicable. The idea behind clemency is this. It saves taxpayers money, right? There's some people that are in prison or locked up that don't need to be locked up anymore. And our tax dollars could be going to other things. They could be going to schools. They could be going to better roads. They could be going helping out the elderly. But instead, they're going to prisons because there's so many people that are incarcerated that it's like, okay, this person has had good behavior for this amount of time. The DNA evidence in this case is inconclusive. Basically, the folks who were bringing the case against this person have now realized it was the wrong person, but, you know, it's too late to open up the case, and all these things. And the governor can just, with the swipe of a pen, grant clemency. It doesn't even go to 1% of the people. And it just shows that, for him it's about being, I guess, tougher on crime, or seeming that way, when that's not being tough on crime. That is not being tough on crime. And the thing that people forget about crime is, people forget about tough on crime is that over 50% of crimes, folks are never caught. So no one ever gets caught for over half of crimes. So that means most crimes, and this is true in most places of the world, and definitely true in New York City, most crimes don't get solved. Most people that commit crime don't get caught. This is just a fact. Now, they have to present a idea so you feel more safe. They present the idea like, yeah, people get caught, yeah, these things happen, but most of the times, that is not the case. Okay? So, this doesn't actually help to prevent crime. It's a virtue signaling way to seem like it's preventing crime, but it doesn't actually help to prevent crime. What actually helps to prevent crime is programs and doing these things from the front end. Better education, better program, better ways to help set up families on the front end instead of over incarceration on the back end of a small percentage of people that, in a lot of cases, might not have even committed the crime, or were arrested by some type of tarnished officer who was embellishing a lot of the things that they were arresting people for so they could get more convictions, right? These are some of the cases that are in of these 2,500 pending and worthy clemency applications. But, that's the situation. So you guys look more into this. So another thing they have is Cuomo famously nominated a range of conservatives to the highest court in New York Supreme Court. So they have Madeline Singas was one of the worst. I'm not as familiar with her. Singas was one of the most avid peddlers of fear and lies of the justice reforms in New York. And here's the thing. Part of what the problem with Governor Cuomo is, and what this is kind of getting at, is that, most of New York State's funding, tourism, tax dollars, all of the things that basically make a state great, most of that is concentrated in New York City. Also, population-wise, the majority of the population is concentrated in New York City. What Governor Cuomo did during most of his time as governor was try to counteract the power and the way that New York City voted. He tried to counteract that with putting overly conservative judges inside the courts. That's one of the things he did. And with many of his policies, too, which we're not going to go through all of those right now, but this is one of the things he did with his unique powers as governor, to say, hey, I'm going to try to put overly conservative folks in as judges. So that's something to look at. Yeah, this is a bad one. During the early days of C-19, he caved to police propaganda and white supremacists to stop bail reform, and only enacted months before. That was only enacted months before, and he did it in the dead of night, without any opportunity for those who fought for the reform to even be heard. So this just shows how he's another sneaky politician that is a career politician, is going to use, and that is going to use the whatever political device he can to get his way, and to act more as a dictator instead of someone who's trying to have the most democratic process possible. And they still have here, I repeat, Governor Cuomo, progressive hero, repealed New York bail reform just months earlier and turned his back on black and brown communities in favor of white supremacists and police unions. He could have stood up. Instead, he expanded the carceral state. So that is another thing. Alright, hold on 1 second. Paper, yeah. Okay. Had to answer the door, so we're back. Yeah, so that was one of the things he did. As vaccines to the people he caged and cramped in unsanitary conditions at complete odds with CDC guidelines. This was a big thing. This was a big thing because I remember there being videos of folks like actually being afraid of COVID, inside of prison and hoping that there would be some type of relief or something done, trying to use their own makeshift, masks and stuff like that. Like, folks didn't have masks. They didn't have any type of thing to protect themselves. And they're in these small, think of a high school gym with beds in it. And there's just a bunch of men, a bunch of women in these, small situations with no ventilation. It's really bad. And they didn't want to add any more money to it. They didn't want to add any more money to it. And they didn't want to give them the vaccines. They didn't want to give him the vaccines at all. And he had to be ordered. The Supreme Court, which a lot of them were conservative that he put, had to order him to do this. So it just shows you. So when New York was on the cusp of finally legalizing marijuana, there was a holdup. Cuomo insisted cops still be able to lie about smelling an odor to justify racist stops and searches. This is one of the main ways that they were able to arrest so many people with the probable cause from the smell. And so once that moved away, it basically stopped a lot of meaningless stops. So yeah. Okay. I might have to do a part 2. So this is going to be part 1. In 43 seconds, then Governor Cuomo first lies that the New York jails and prisons can quarantine. Experts, including Chief Rikers' doctor, unanimously said they couldn't, given numbers jailed. Second, says no clemency or plans to use powers to decarcerate. So, when in power, he basically had no fresh ideas. He was very much a old school guy with no fresh ideas, and in a situation where we were under an emergency, this ended up a lot of people losing their lives or having serious health issues that lasted for long periods of time, for long periods of their life. So this is actually a dangerous person. So yeah, they asked to be able to vaccinate people. He said no. Okay. So this is a lot of stuff about that. Let me see. Cuomo accepted an Emmy for leadership despite ignoring the 40,000 plus people in his jails and prisons and forcing them to produce hand sanitizer, and refusing to let them use it, repealing bail reform, and opening a nursing home in prison instead of releasing elderly. Yeah, this was one of the wildest things. The fact that the hand sanitizer that they made, because they were forcing prisoners to make all of this PPE stuff because they couldn't get it from companies fast enough and cheap enough. They forced prisoners to make it, and then they couldn't even use it. It was considered contraband for the prisoners, so they couldn't keep clean. And this is the thing about it, right? You might not value the lives of prisoners, but as the governor, you are the person that's supposed to hold that to a higher standard and value human life, even beyond political leanings. You have to value that. So yeah. And then I didn't even get to the stuff about all of the accusations and the harassment that Governor Cuomo did, as well as a bunch of his intimidation tactics, bad policies, and just him being a career politician with a bad track record. So I'll get into that in another video, but make sure you like, subscribe, write a comment if you like this. vote to be like 2025 if you want to vote for me. I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.